Welcome to The Walk. In this episode, conversation with Dillon Stoner. This is the podcast for November 8, 2021.
Hey everybody, welcome to The Walk. We're excited to have you tuning in or listening in today. We've got a really, fantastic podcast in store today. I'm really excited about it. But before we get too far into it, let me again ask you once again, if you have not already subscribed, would you please do that? It helps us out tremendously. If you are listening to this audibly on whatever platform you found us, there are different ways to subscribe. Please do that. If you're watching on YouTube, please click on that red subscribe button and then click on the bell, and you will be alerted every time we post any new content. So it's a cool thing to do. We appreciate it very much and would love to have you do that. So let's get into it. Guys, how's it going? I'm Scott. Glad to you're here today. Let's kind of go around the room. Tyler, how you doing, man?
I'm doing all right.
Hey, I'm
Jeremy, how's it going?
Going really good.
Excellent. Good deal. Today, we're kind of in a sports moment. We're going to be hearing a conversation, Jeremy, that you engaged in with a buddy of yours, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But before we do, let's just acknowledge the obvious. We're three dudes. We like talking sports. We do it a lot. We realize that not everybody likes talking sports. So if you don't like sports, hang with us. Don't tune out yet, because I think you're going to still enjoy this talk a lot. But from just a life perspective, the games, the scores, the fantasy leagues, all that kind of stuff, both you guys kind of give it a shot here. What is it for each of you that you are attracted to or enamored by when it comes to, the different sports that you follow? Tyler, why don't you?
I think first and foremost, the thing we always talk about is there's community in it. There's community in sports, and there's camaraderie. And, I'm a huge Thunder fan, And even though we're purposefully losing, I like to see, the guys on the team having brotherhood and having and being a team. And also, like you mentioned, fantasy sports, that's also something that I really enjoy. We do that as a men's group at our church. I just took a really hard loss to Matt this week. So, I really enjoy the community of it and the brotherhood and all that kind of stuff.
That's great. Jeremy, how about you, man?
Yeah, same deal with me. I just love talking to people about it. Like Tyler said, we have fantasy football here at the church, so it just gives us all an opportunity to talk about sports and get together and just have fun.
Now, either one of you guys, do you get into the strategy of it? I mean,
fantasy?
No, well, yeah, I guess. But just like if you're watching a basketball game, obviously you want your team to win.
Right.
You don't want them to lose. Do you like pick teams to follow because you like the style of play that they do? Do you?
Oh, definitely.
I have my teams, and I pick my teams, and I go with my teams.
And is that based on like geography? Like you pick the teams that are?
I'm an OU fan. I'm a Thunder fan. I don't really have a favorite NFL team. I'd say I'd probably, Cardinals and Browns just because of the OU connection. But
Yeah, and so for me, like my favorite team is the Texans. I feel like a lot of people know that. But there's other teams I like to watch because I have a player that I really like, and they're just electric to watch, and it's just fun. So they make the game exciting. So, yeah, there's definitely players and teams out there like that for me.
Well, that kind of, I think, hits it hard for me. You say you kind of like following, those teams because, the Browns and the Cardinals, because they've got some players on those teams that, are played at the college that you pull for. I think that's kind of it for me. There was a time in my life when, I liked certain styles of play, like you're talking basketball or you're talking football. It's hard with baseball, but I liked it with those other sports because it was really quick and aggressive. My son is a huge racing fan. He really loves Formula One racing, and at that level, you're looking at those cars are really like these huge, massive flying pieces of technology, and there's a great equality amongst the cars. So it's like kind of outside of the colors, what is it that you're picking out? And it's for him, it's the driver of the car. It's who the person is behind the wheel and what they represent and how they approach the track and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's the coolest thing for me these days is finding players that you sort of find some affinity for or connection to. And I know that for my wife, she in a lot of ways is a bigger sports fan than I am, which hasn't always been the case over the course of our marriage, but she's found individual players on teams that she's, really takes a fancy to. And for us, it happened when we first got married. I was a Sacramento Kings fan back in the day because we lived close to there. No, back in the day, they had a player on their team who was named Vlade Divac, and he was from Serbia. And I was watching the game, and she was just kind of passing through the room. And just kind of as an aside, the announcer mentioned that Vlade had just gotten back into the United States because he had gone home and had adopted a little child and brought that kid back. And it was a real war-torn situation. His home nation was involved in the Civil War. And so he was adopting kids out of that circumstance. And she heard that. And she's walking through, and she circles back around, and she sits down. And I thought, this is interesting. Why is she watching basketball? Well, she became a huge fan of Vlade because of what he was doing as a person. And then it just kind of snowballed from there. And I think for me, and hopefully for our viewers watching what they're getting ready to experience in seeing this conversation that you have with Dillon Stoner, it's going to kind of be that same way. It's going to give them a chance to get to know not just a uniform number or a colored jersey, but get to know the player behind that. And so we'll hear more about in the conversation who Dillon is to you, but just kind of briefly to introduce this, can you sort of talk about how long you've known Dillon and where you got to know him from and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. I met Dillon, I think it was in middle school, early high school. We were both part of the same small group at the church that we grew up in, and we were buddies in high school, and so we've just kind of kept a connection throughout the years, but that's how I originally met Dillon.
And you guys became friends and still continue to be, which is kind of, at one level, oh, it's starstruck. Wow, you know an NFL player. But then at the other level, you're excited for him, but he's just a buddy of yours that you've been buddies with since, middle school.
Exactly, yeah. I'm sure for a lot of other people, they'd be pretty starstruck, and it's definitely exciting for me to know him and get to talk to him when he's in this position, but he's still the same old Dillon. He's still the same old genuine guy, and nothing... It doesn't change my perspective on him. He's still Dillon to me. Yeah.
Well, hey, let's also at this point address one more thing that's kind of the sort of the white elephant walking around the room, about this particular interview. We actually you shot this interview like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we've actually have tried to put together a podcast to do this interview before now, and we had some technical difficulties, and this is round 2. And in that time, some stuff has happened that's actually pretty tragic. At the time that you're having this conversation with Dillon, he is a member of the practice squad of the Las Vegas Raiders.
That's right.
And as you see the interview here in just a second, that's what's referred to. Subsequent to this filming of this interview, a real tragic event has happened with the Raiders and with a player who was on their squad, where there was a really horrible loss of life. A woman was killed in an automobile accident that appears to have been caused by a player now who has been released from the Raiders, and that may have some real long-term effects on Dillon himself and what happens with his professional career, and we're still seeing that unpacked as we record this, and we want to acknowledge that, and certainly acknowledge that while we're excited for Dillon and his opportunities, I think like everybody, we are absolutely crushed that somebody lost their life and lost it so needlessly with what transpired and took place there. But I think there's a lot there that we'll kind of maybe even unpack more after we hear the conversation. But let's why don't we do this now? Let's jump in and let's listen to your talk with your buddy Dillon Stoner and share that with everybody now.
All right, let's do it.
Tackles for loss. Peterman goes down the right sideline now. That is caught right over the top.
Dillon Stoner is a wide receiver on the practice squad for the Las Vegas Raiders in the National Football League. I've known Dillon for years. He was a standout at Jenks High School where we both attended.
Tonight we're going to start with Dillon Stoner, the Oklahoma high school football equivalent of a Swiss Army knife. Jenks Trojans needed a big play of any kind. Dillon Stoner made it.
Touchdown, Jenks! Wow.
After high school, Dillon became well known as a player at Oklahoma State, where he was named All Big 12 honorable mention at 2 different positions.
He finds some room and gets the ball downfield to Dillon Stoner, sneaking his way to the end zone, and how about that big strike?
Was twice named team captain and won the Vernon Grant Award for outstanding leadership.
But they're going to go to Stoner in the end zone, and he's got a second touchdown catch. Boy, Dillon Stoner is making an impact on this game and making it early.
And that's why I wanted to talk to him on this podcast. As notable as his accomplishments on the football field are, the guy I know has always been a standout off the field. He's figured out that his walk with Jesus is the key to balancing everything he has going on in life. This is Dillon Stoner. And so thank you again for coming on and
man. Thanks
for talk to you.
I find it up.
So I guess we'll go ahead and get started then. So the first question I got for you, coming from a program like Jenks, being around Coach Tremble and all those amazing guys, what kind of things did you learn through that whole process?
Oh man, there's a ton. I mean, obviously Tremble, he's a guy, you can't buy respect or persuade people's respect. It's earned. And I think anyone that played for him or was around him would say they had the utmost respect for him as a man, as a coach. Being around him and the handful of other guys, Coach Caleb as well. I mean, those guys, what made it so fun playing for them is it was very clear that, you weren't just a guy, you weren't just a football player to them. They genuinely cared about you as a person and your well-being. And there's no doubt in my mind that if ever anything went on outside of football, whether it be, a personal struggle or something going on with family, those two guys, without a shadow of a doubt, I could go to and talk to, and they would 100% be there for me and whoever it was. So that's something special. And that's really something that I didn't realize how special it was until further along that I got into sports.
Yeah, and of course, some of those things rub off on yourself. I mean, have you seen any situations or felt anything like that where you can see a direct correlation between having those experiences with them and it kind of come into fruition in your life?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I try to take from those guys is I never tried to I tried to make it known that I genuinely cared for the guys that I played with outside of football. I want them to know that it's not just a relationship when we're in the building or we're playing football, that's the only time that we could talk or, just have very surface level conversations. And I wanted it to be known to everyone that I whatever you need, whatever you're going through, if I can help in any way, I want to do that. So obviously that's something that you can continue to get better at each and every day. But that's definitely something that I've took from them and tried to do in my personal life as well.
Awesome. It's definitely a cool experience to be around those guys. And, with that said, is there anything that kind of comes to mind from that same kind of circumstances being at OSU, being around Coach Gundy and those guys up there?
Yeah, we spent all of our time, the majority of our time with our strength staff, that's who you're with year round, basically in college. So the strength staff was awesome to me. There's a couple of those guys that I still keep in touch with, and still it's the same type of deal. College is obviously, each level gets different. It's more of a business each step of the way. So I understand there's give and take with that, and it's not going to be, as they're not going to be as accommodating to you like they were in high school, and so on and so forth. So, what you got to understand both sides of it, but I definitely feel like, it was the same type of deal at OSU. I was very blessed to be around that staff and those guys. And it was a similar feeling, not quite as rich and pure as it was Jenks, but like I said, it's a business, and that's part of it.
Okay, cool. You've made this progression from playing Jenks and then moving to OSU, and now moving on to the NFL and being with the Las Vegas Raiders. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
And it's cool to kind of see you go through that whole process. I'm really excited for you. But with that comes a whole lot of craziness and intensity and stuff. How do you kind of stay grounded in all of that?
Yeah, this has been one wild year, man. It's been ever since we were done with the bowl game, it's been kind of hitting the ground running. I went straight to Denver for 3 months, and then came back home for a short period of time, then right back to Vegas for about 2 months. And then we had like a month off, and then all goes well, I'll be here the rest of the year. So it was so much uncertainty, and I had so much anxiety at the start of all this, and that my relationship with the Lord was really the only thing that I felt like that I could stand on and have confidence in and get comfort from. So it was wild. And when I truly say, like, there's no way I can't imagine going through all that without having a relationship with the Lord. Like, started my day, like, at the time I was just so nervous, all I could listen to was podcasts and sermons, and so I was just constantly trying to get myself in the word and just kind of calm myself down and know everything's going to be okay no matter how this thing shakes out. So it's a very reassuring feeling, like, because you never know. I mean, we have guys that get cut one day and then they get picked up across the nation the next, and it's just I can't imagine, like I said, I can't imagine going through all this without having a relationship with Christ and having that to stand on through all this craziness.
I'm curious, do you see that in any other guys that you're around in the locker room, or any coaches or anything like that?
Yeah, dude, I was very, very fortunate to land here. There's a solid group of guys that do a Bible study each week, that are constantly plugged in, trying to get other guys plugged into the word. So because when you think about playing at this level, I definitely thought it was kind of like every man for themselves. Like, you're trying to take someone's job, they're trying to take someone's job. They're kind of like, especially a rookie, undrafted free agent guy, they're like, who cares about this?
Yeah. No,
they've been super welcoming with open arms, man, and it's really cool to see how plugged in all the guys are here. So it's been an awesome experience so far.
Cool. That's one of the things that we've been talking about at our church, this community, getting together with people, and really no matter what the circumstances are. And you seem to do that with the team, and just finding people around you to get connected to God with. And it's so important.
No doubt. It really is. And, even out, like, just getting to know those guys better and is awesome in and of itself. And I also think it ties our team together to be even closer. So it's a really, really cool thing that I'm blessed to be a part of.
But just kind of in general, what's it like playing on an NFL team and being surrounded by those guys, and like your day to day, just for people who don't really know the whole process?
Yeah. So, I'm on the practice squad right now. There's 16 guys, 16 or 17 guys on the practice squad, and 53 guys are active and play on Sundays. So I still do everything that they do. I go to all the meetings. I'm in at all the practices, do all the lifts, go to the away games, stay the night in the hotel before the game. So it's early mornings. We get out at about 3 normally, so it's not terrible. You got some time to yourself in the evenings, but practice can be a grind. It's a lot of running, especially being on practice squad and doing that. But I wouldn't change it for the world. It's it's what I've dreamed of from the start, and I know whatever happens, it's all part of God's plan. So I'm just trying to stay the course and enjoy every second that I can.
Yeah, I'm so excited to see you there, man. It's so cool being able to just hear about kind of what you go through day to day and just everything. It's exciting not only for you but people that It's
I
fun.
appreciate it, man. It's been a lot of fun.
So kind of now transitioning to kind of your faith. Since you're already on this podcast, you kind of seem to do things to kind of help spread the gospel and try to reach others about Christ. I've kind of seen that throughout your social media throughout the years. Is that a goal of yours to kind of use your platform to reach people? And if so, how do you usually go about that?
Yeah, it's definitely something that I think about. I'd never want to be one of those guys that is not genuine or real. I don't love social media. And right now I'm not really on it. But I try to just the same way with people and in the relationships that I have, I just want to be as real as possible and spread love any way I can. So any opportunity that I get to on social media, or if there's, something that just something to comment about or congratulate someone, that's what I try to do, really. So that's kind of the way that I look at social media and my platform. And I think as time goes on, that'll be something that I look more to do. But like I said, right now I'm not really on it, but I try to the main thing is just spread love and be positive in such a negative world, and especially on those platforms where all you see is bad news for the most part.
So you kind of alluded to it earlier, with the NFL being kind of somewhat of like an aggressive kind of cutthroat business. That's just kind of how the NFL is naturally. How do you kind of approach that with a perspective of kind of just walking with the Christ-like identity throughout that whole process? How do you go about that?
Yeah, if the college level is a business, the NFL is even more cutthroat business, like you said. So obviously nothing is guaranteed here. Nothing is for certain. And I was very anxious about that for a long time. And then finally, I think what gave me peace with that is, I've had an amazing run at this whole deal so far. I would want to play for however long I can, but like I said, it's all God's plan, and it's all he's in control at the end of the day. So I know if the door closes, another door is going to open somewhere else, whether that be football or something completely different. So I'm just trying to enjoy my time here, really soak it all in, and try to honor the Lord every step of the way, and that gives me peace.
I think that's a kind of mindset that people need to have more often. It's easier said than done, but I think keeping God as your focal point, Jesus the main part in your life, is really the only structure that you need to go throughout your day and kind of have your life all centered. Yeah,
for sure, man.
I feel like everyone kind of right now, especially since COVID, everyone's kind of in this state of just kind of disconnectedness and confusion and everything. Everyone's been secluded and stuck away from each other. And, there really haven't been a lot of driving influences to kind of bring people to Christ. And so I feel like things like that would really help kind of pull people back in and be able to feel that connection again.
Yeah, no, and it's a shame, man. It's a shame all this is going on, but I definitely think there's ways around it and ways to do it where everyone feels safe. And I hope that, churches can figure that out, and then people can start flooding back into those doors and receiving the word of Christ. Because, listening to sermons and stuff is great, but there's just something that's so much different and powerful about sitting into church and getting to witness people get baptized. And being baptized is a whole different deal that is so much more meaningful and powerful in so many different ways.
How's the COVID stuff in the NFL? What kind of stuff do you guys have to do to kind of go through that whole process and I guess make sure everyone is safe and ready to go?
Yeah, so they made a strong push for guys to get vaccinated. I got vaccinated in March I got the single shot, and it's drastically different for guys that are vaccinated compared to guys that are not. I respect both sides of it. I get both sides of it. We have to get guys that are vaccinated have to get tested once a week, and everyone has to wear a little contact tracer. You get fined a pretty good chunk of change if you don't have that on. And then unvaccinated guys have to test every day and wear a mask all around the facility. The only time they don't have to wear it is at practice. So it's crazy. I hope that, very soon we can just go back to totally normal and not have to worry about this at all. But it hasn't been too wild for guys that have chosen to get vaccinated.
I feel like everyone's kind of ready for things to get back to normal, but it's good to hear that they're taking all the precautions that they need, just trying to do their part, I guess, to keep everyone all right. So,
I think we have the majority of our staff and players vaccinated, so it's a good thing. We haven't had any outbreaks, knock on wood, and everyone's been safe for the most part. So no complaints here.
And so the Raiders, they just moved to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is probably considered a little bit more of a wild city,
No
and what kind of differences have you noticed from living in Tulsa to Stillwater to now Vegas and seeing just the whole perspective of everything?
Yeah, it's literally the desert, flying in here. It's nothing but desert until you get to Las Vegas. And then obviously there's the Strip, which why everyone comes out here for the most part. And then then there's, I live in Henderson, and that's where our practice facility is, which is probably like 20 minutes away from the Strip. So it's very accessible for people to go to and do whatever they want. I try to stay away from it. I've been out there one time with my grandparents to eat dinner and watch a show. So I try to stay away from there. I'll probably go get dinner out there at some point, but it's definitely so easy to get caught up in all the craziness and madness. And, I'm blessed with an amazing fiance that's going to be out here soon. And so if I'm wasn't in check or not in check, she'll get me back in place.
Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
Going through the NFL and everything, it's a pretty stressful job. You take a pretty brutal beating in practice. You literally tackling each other, and it's just hard on your body, hard on your mind. Is there any specific way that you use your faith to kind of deal with just stress, issues, and problems, whatever it might go throughout your day-to-day?
Yeah, I always try to do a Bible plan before we start practice. We start meetings at 7, get breakfast, go through meetings, and then we have like 30 minutes to get ready to go before we hit the practice field. And I always try to make an emphasis on doing a Bible plan before I go out there, just to, remind myself this is such a minuscule thing in the long run. This football, it's a game at the end of the day. It's the same game we all played in JTA ball or Mighty Might or whatever. It's the same game, obviously, just on a little bit different scale. But it's peaceful to me because I get that sense of relief and security with the Lord. And I know it's just another reminder that, this is such a small thing, and I'm here to serve one God and be a light of him and try to glorify him in all that I do. So that's a huge reminder. Then when I get back home, I try to, there's a list of plans that I have, and I've really been at the Bible study with some of the guys, that listening to them pray and hearing the stories that they've had of just like how God has communicated with them and the ways that they pray for people. It's really something that's opened my heart to, being more in tune with that, because it can be the smallest of signs or messages or whatever, but prayer is a powerful thing, and that's something that I'm trying to dig deeper in right now as well.
Well, I think that's really all I got for you. Is there any final thoughts or anything you'd like to say to everyone?
Not much, man. First off, I appreciate you having me on. I'm honored. Great catching up with you. We'll have to, whenever I'm back in town, we'll definitely have to go grab lunch or something. But thank you very much. And in no way, shape, or form am I a perfect person, or I'm far from it. And I'm just trying to, be better each day and honor the Lord in all that I do. So you do a fantastic job of that. You have ever since that I've met you, and keep fighting the good fight, man. And like I said, thanks so much for having me on. This has been awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you for coming on. I feel the same way about you. I respect you so much and everything that you do, and just your love for Jesus. So thank you, man.
Dude, that was awesome, Jeremy. That was really cool, dude.
Yeah, I had an amazing time sitting down with Dillon. He's an incredible guy. One of my favorite things that we got to talk about was just the connections that he had with his teammates. He talked about it in the interview. Just really, no matter what circumstances that they're in, and no matter obviously what they're going through, they find a way to get together and really have that connection with each other and that connection with Christ.
Yeah, it's cool. Tyler, do you anything in that jump off?
I mean, we hinted at it a little bit before, but one thing that just stuck out to me was that he is just a normal guy. All these players, they're normal guys. They have normal lives. They're in a jersey and they're professionals.
Yeah.
And we tend to look at them and idolize them and put them on a pedestal. And to a degree, they have a platform. And I think it's really cool to see him using what platform he has for the kingdom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of my honestly favorite parts, though, was when he talked about his grandparents coming to visit him. It's the only time he's been down to the Strip, which I thought that was funny. I think I was really struck, Jeremy, and I'd love to hear your thoughts more on it, about how his personal, and I think it's not just his experiences becoming a better player, but his growth, interpersonally has happened so much, in the stops that he's made. The time when he was in high school here locally, where we are at Jenks High School, and then later on Oklahoma State and even NFL. How is that for you in asking those different questions about the stops and things? Did you feel like that made sense for you? Did that connect?
Oh, to a degree it did, because, obviously we both went to Jenks together, so I got a chance to meet Coach Trimble a few times, and he was just an incredible guy. I mean, there's few people like him in the world. I mean, he was something special. And so I could sense the impact that he had on Dillon. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to meet all the coaches at OSU, but I can imagine this kind of stuff that they do and that they instill in their players and everything. And then you can see it in Dillon, the way he carries himself and just everything about him.
It's interesting, isn't it? The role that a good coach or a good mentor can play in your life, and the impact that it can have on you. And you mentioned Coach Trimble, who was his high school football coach. I'm curious, either one of you guys have somebody that you could look back on your life and think that person was, a great coach or a great mentor, or just, even if it was in an official capacity, maybe somebody who had, just walked alongside you at a formative moment in your life, who you look back on and go, man, I'm glad that person was there, because that really.
Yeah, I would like to point back to our third episode of our podcast. Ty Graham, he was a youth pastor of mine, and now he's one of my best friends. And he helped me get my start in worship ministry, and has helped. He has walked alongside me in that, and all those things you said. He's a great mentor and great friend.
Maybe this is like a two-part question. Where do you think you would be, or do you even think you would be where you are, if in like not just your career but your life, if Ty never would have been a part of your life?
I wouldn't have gotten my start as soon as I did. I'd probably be a band director right now if I had
like in a school context.
Like at a school, yeah.
Yeah.
Leading the marching band, all that kind of stuff.
Or a math teacher.
It would have been one of those two things, probably.
Or both.
Well, I started out music education.
Right.
And then when I decided no, full-time ministry is my thing, I'd switch to a math degree just as a.
But from a degree.
Degree.
Okay, so that's professionally. But from like just a life development perspective. I mean, how much do you think the man you are today is a result of Ty's influence?
I think he has a lot to do with a lot of who I am. You know, I don't know that right now I can name anything specifically, but I think he has a lot to do with my life and where I'm at and all that kind of stuff. I think I would be a completely different person. I never would have met my wife, and my wife has the most to do, besides Jesus, has the most to do with my maturation and growth over the last few years.
Yeah. Because I think it's about influence, you know, at the end of the day. I mean, that's the cool thing. I mean, people who might tune in and watch this to learn, okay, who's this new receiver that the Raiders have, you know, hopefully they're going to see what an amazing guy, you know, Dillon is off the field through, you know, your conversation with him, and allow him to be an influence on their life. Because that's what we talked about earlier, right? I mean, that's like, I think what's so compelling about sports a lot of times is getting connected to, I mean, we want to be careful that we're not making people role models who should not be role models. But when you do connect with somebody who not only can catch passes out there in the football field, but, you know, is doing life in a way that's not like Jesus, not, you know, something, you know, crazy, you know, at some high level that's not attainable, but it's just, you know, as a normal person, you know, like we are, making it through on a daily basis, but doing it in a way that lets the rest of us look at it and be influenced. I mean, that's a cool deal. But then I think when we take that opportunity to say, well, I can do that too. You know, I can, in whatever it is that I'm doing, like Ty did with you, I can just be an influence and try to help you, Tyler, make it, you know, just through better, more soundly, based on what I've experienced, what I've learned. You know,
Well, that's the structure of discipleship. Is you have, you know, Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy. You have a mentor, you have somebody you're in community with, and you have who you're in accountability with, and then you have somebody who you meant.
Okay, so back that up. When you say discipleship and you say Paul and Timothy, can you expand on that a little bit, just for anybody watching who's not?
Yeah. So, you know, Jesus gives this picture of discipleship with his disciples. Obviously, he does life with them, and he says, "Follow me," and he teaches them how to do life and the way to live. And so he was like a mentor. He was officially their rabbi.
Yeah.
But then the way I've always heard it is there's you have Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy, and in that picture, Paul is the mentor, and then you have Barnabas, who's like your accountability partner, and then you have Timothy, who is somebody who you take under your wing and who you disciple. So when I was on leadership at the Cameron BCM in college, you know, every single week in our meetings with our director, he would say, "Okay, how's Paul, Barnabas, and Timothy? How's that going?" And then, you know, we'd, you know, have real discussions with how our discipleship is going.
It was an intentional approach of saying there's somebody that I'm connected to, and Paul, obviously you're talking about the people from the Bible. So Paul was a guy who not only wrote a lot of the stuff that's in the New Testament, he was a guy who set up a lot of churches, and he did that by relationships, and he did that twofold, right? And I think that's what you're talking about, is that he was very intentional about having a relationship. Barnabas was a guy that was a contemporary, was a peer, that he said, "Hey, let's have this mutual relationship where you help me and I'll help you." And then Timothy was somebody who was a younger person that he was like, "Let me pass on to you what I've learned in life." And so and I think that's that's great coaching. If you do that on the football field, that's awesome. But you know what? If you do that, you know, at work, that's great too. If you do that at home, that's great too. And I think that's, you know, the cool thing. And I think, you know, Jeremy, jump in here, because I think that's what you see in Dillon Stoner. Somebody has done that for that guy, and now that's what he's doing, you know, not just on the field.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Like me and Dillon talked about it in the podcast, and, you know, if Dillon can walk into a room with a bunch of guys from a bunch of different backgrounds that have a bunch of different opinions that he really doesn't know, and sit down and reach out and branch out and have conversations about Jesus with them, I'm confident that all of us in any situation can go out and do the same thing and have success. Yeah.
And, you know, hey, again, let's reference the tragedy that's happened there in Las Vegas.
Yes.
You know, one of the things that I was really, I guess at one level, I would say I was blown away by, but then at the same time, because I'd already seen this interview and I heard Dillon. I mean, Dillon never mentions like David Carr by name when you guys were talking about it. But David Carr's the quarterback there. Derek, sorry, David is his brother.
Yes.
Derek gave an interview this week after this tragedy's happened there, and the sense of connection that he clearly had with his teammate and the remorse that he felt, not just for his teammate who's now lost his job, but for the woman that lost her life because of the poor decisions it made, and then the sense that he was communicating that he felt like some grief on his own part, that he wishes that he had done something in that relationship with the receiver.
Yeah. And I feel like I can see other things too. There's another interview that Derek said, and he said, we aren't here to judge. We need to be here and we need to love on him and be here for him. And I feel like that's exactly what Dillon would say too.
Yeah.
I feel like that group of teammates and people in that locker room are something special. I really do. And
that doesn't mean that woman's life was not insanely valuable and that they're trying to like make light of it. But I do think that it illustrates just how hard life is. I mean, it's not easy whether you're an NFL football player and you have all the money in the world, or you are a, just person struggling through life, trying to make it from paycheck to paycheck and experience to experience. That life's hard for everybody, and you need people in your life. I'm sure that lady who's lost her life, her family is probably so overwhelmed and crushed right now, and people like us just trying to make sense of it all. We need other people in our lives. And if we can, find people in our lives to mentor us and to be an influence with us, it makes life work. But then also, it can't just be take. There needs to be give as well. And we need to be finding people that we can pour into and connect with. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Tyler, this has been, let's change gears here a little bit. This has been a pretty exciting couple of weeks for you and for everybody else because of some project that you've been working on. You want to tell everybody watching what's getting ready to happen?
Yeah. So I've always wanted to do Christmas stuff too. And so I am coming out with my own Christmas album. It's called Where Heaven Arrived. I got to write one of the songs with my wife, and there's some traditional stuff on there. So it was a lot of fun to record myself and to produce myself. So I'm really excited for everybody to hear that. We'll have links in the description of this video for you to go and find that.
So, okay, that's you Tyler, you just talked about the song you and Raina wrote. So is it all like original new music, or are there going to be some old Christmas favorites on there?
There are going to be some old Christmas favorites on it. And it's mostly traditional stuff that's based in Scripture. There's some hymns that have new takes on them. That's mostly it. There's no "It's the most wonderful time of the year."
I like that song.
Well, yeah, but it's not.
It's just a little mix up.
It's not biblical. So that was the vision behind the whole thing. It's just for it to be founded in Scripture and be founded in the Christmas story. So, yeah.
Good stuff. And that's available on Spotify?
Spotify, Apple Music. You can buy it on iTunes, Amazon. I mean, anywhere you listen to music, it's available.
Cool. Awesome. Well, as far as non-Christmas music, we're going to hear some stuff right now. We're going to hear some worship music. What are we going to hear now?
So we're going to hear this song called Lean Back. And, one thing I love about this song is just it's about our trust it's about declaring our trust in God. Like the chorus says, I will lean back in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. I will breathe deep and know that He is good. He's a love like no other. And I think that, that just displays like, God is trustworthy and He's worth having faith in. And I think Dillon, kind of outlined that. Like he has a trust and he has a faith in Jesus. And whenever I hear this song and whenever I sing it, I think of like a trust fall. And just that act of just letting go and leaning back. And so that's why I wanted to do this song for this episode.
before I even knew what love was. You've brought me here to rest and given me space to breathe. So I'll stay still until it sinks in. I will lean back in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. Breathe deep and know that He is good. He's a love like no other. And you will never leave. Your love sustaining me before I even knew what love was. You brought me here to rest and given me space to breathe. So I'll stay still until it sinks in. And I will lean back in the loving arms of a beautiful Father. I will breathe deep and know that He is good. He's a love like no other.